So good evening. I think a lot of you must have had a great couple of sessions earlier. This could possibly be a little more dry, but crisis is probably very important in PR professionals' life. Crisis, like any individual, organizations go through crisis. I'll take you through a very brief overview of the crisis. Obviously, 20 minutes is something which you can't get into too deeply, but I'll take you through the broad parameters which you look for. Yeah. One sec. Yeah. So typically, this is normally the attitude of everybody, even in individual life. You assume that, how many of you have taken life insurance? Anybody here? Yeah, maybe just 2 out of so many people. Now, this is typically, I think, preparedness. Most corporates in India, I've seen, they're not very well prepared for crisis. So when it happens, they get hit very badly. Multinationals have far more rigorous protocols for communications, crisis. So typically, this is the attitude, we will be fine, nothing will happen to us. But the question is, what happens if it does? This is Warren Buffett, the sage of Idaho. I don't know how many of you are aware of him. He's supposed to be the world's most intelligent and the biggest investor. He runs Hathaway Partners. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 years to ruin it. If you think about that, you will do things differently. This is a very wise thing because, organizations are built over years, but reputation can go overnight if some big mishap happens. So when crisis hits, what are the tasks you have to do? Typically, normally, every organization has a crisis protocol, which lists down, for various crises. Something could be a very small, minor crisis, which is settled at the district level, at the branch level, maybe even at the individual level. But there are some crises which needs to go back to the head office or many times to the CEO himself. So, it's very important to understand what is the, how do we define various forms of crisis and what is the escalation levels? Who informs whom? So there are here also clear protocols in terms of how the channel of communication reaches it to the CEO and sometimes to the board. So what are the tasks of the various people who are part of the communication team? Distribution of tasks. How do we communicate internally? Now this is very critical. When a crisis happens, communication is the most important part, right? How do we communicate externally? That's a bigger part because now you don't have too much of a choice because by the time a crisis happens, the social media or the wire services or even the TV channels have already got hold of it. So how do you communicate externally? So this is typically the most important part. How and why did it happen? Now the important thing here is you might make some holistic statement, but you can't be very specific till the full investigation is completed. The next question most media and others ask you is, who's to be blamed? What happened and why did it happen? And then the next question is, if it happened, could it have been prevented? What if you had done X, Y, Z, then could it have been prevented? So the 3 what's in crisis communication is, what happened? It could be environment pollution, it could be a posh case, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, it could be income tax raid on your organization, it could be insider trading, it could be any of the hundreds of reasons. But it's important to know what happened and whom does it affect and which stakeholders does it affect. The important next question is, what have you done so far to mitigate that, right? Now it's very important to understand what are the limitations in terms of what you can say, which I'll come to in the next slide. And the next question is, what steps have you taken to further mitigate it or further reduce the damage, or what steps have you taken to ensure that it doesn't happen again? So this is what the stakeholders and the public want to know. Of course, when you say public, it means wide variety of publics, including television, including tweeters, social media, influencers, everybody. So, you need to have a clarity in terms of the start and end of crisis event. How did the crisis start? Has it ended or is still continuing? What is the nature of the incident? Was it a fire? Was it an explosion? Was it an emission? Was it a CEO resignation? Was it a lawsuit against the company? Was it a fraud? Was it a cyber attack? There could be many others. I mean, I've just put some 5 or 6, but there could be 100 other reasons for this. Now, the next question is, how did it happen? Cause if known. Who is affected? What are the kind of people who are affected? Is it the employees? Is it the, the society? Is it the nation? Is it the shareholders? Is it the common man? Injuries, casualties. Has there been injuries? Has there been casualties? Has there been damages? How have they been, how many of them? How have they been treated? What treatment have you given to them? What is the threat to residents around, if it's environment or fire or community? Other damages like litigation. Somebody can litigate against you. They can go into court against you. This happened, let's say, there was a litigation against Adani recently. So, what do you do about it? Damages. People sue you for damages, and that could be big damages. Then it can affect the very foundation of the company. The next question is, what is the impact of the crisis on business and stakeholders? Because some crisis can actually ruin you. It can completely result in the end of the company, right? If the damages or the litigation is huge. What are you doing to solve the problem? Will it be solved, and how are you planning to solve? What is the time frame for it? Again, what steps have you taken or will you take to ensure that this won't happen again? This is typically any board director would ask you, okay, this has happened. How do you ensure that this will not happen again? So prerequisites of a good crisis communication plan. Fast communication essential in a crisis. See, it's very important that people will get in touch with you, and if you don't have adequate information, then they're going to speculate and they are going to write. So for instance, if there is a fire, I think the important thing is within minutes of the fire, you need to put out a statement confirming that there was a fire. Now the next thing is you can say that it has affected XYZ part of the plant or the office. If it is a plant, you can say that it affected the stockyard, it affected some machinery. Okay, you need not give any details of the casualties and all, and just say that, we confirm that there is a fire, we are the fire department is investigating, we are looking into it, we'll come back to you. But at least you're holding all speculation by saying this. Speak with one voice. It's absolutely essential in a crisis communications that one person handles the entire external communications or even internal communications, because the moment multiple people talk, there can be a cacophony and there can be a mix-up in terms of the smoke signals which are emitted. The other thing is publish only authenticated figures. If you're sure about it, say it. If you are not sure about it, you are at liberty to say within that 5, 10, 15 minutes, look, I don't know, I need to check. I mean, people understand that. I mean, if a fire happens and if the fire is still raging and if the fire engines are, fighting the fire, you don't have to say how many people are inside, how many got injured, how many were burnt, how many were killed. You don't have to say that. You can say, look, there's a fire, there are some people inside, we don't know, we are checking. The important thing is to take responsibility. You can't be abdicating responsibility. You need to come across as a good corporate citizen. And the most important thing is, while honestly you may be stalling the media, you don't want to give any information. But at the same time, you need to appear that you're trying to be helpful to them and you're trying to be nice with them and you're also cooperating with them. Rules for communication, state only proven facts. Do not speculate ever. Please don't say, I think this is what happened. You have to stick to facts. Respect and be mindful of regulatory laws and rules. For instance, if there is a fire, you cannot speculate on the cause of the fire. That is not your job. That is the job of the fire department. Please understand regulation. Okay? The fire department will determine what is the thing. Similarly, if there is a sexual harassment case, it is the POSH committee which will decide whether the accused is guilty or not. You cannot be, as a spokesperson, you cannot be deciding on that. You can only say that this matter is with the POSH committee, they will decide. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Never name victims or affected people. Don't talk about the names, it's not good. If you see, that's the standard rule. If there is a victim, you don't talk about the names and all that. You just say 3 people died, they are employees, we are taking good care of them. Be precise. Brevity is very critical. You don't have to go into big prose, you don't have to write essays on it. It can be a 1-line, it can be a 2-line statement. That's it. The most important thing is you need to be confident. You need to come across as confident. You need to give the impression that you have the entire incident under control. You can't be nervous out there in front of hundreds of media. And especially, there are international media. If it's a big incident, then obviously there are a host of media, host of them speculating. The other thing is people will cast aspersions. They will put words in your mouth. Now, it's very important to actually deny those and say those are untrue, right? The moment they say anything, and if you don't answer back, then it is assumed that what they are saying is true. So you need to deny any of those assertions. The most important thing is be sensitive to local traditions and practices. The practices in a particular region, in a particular district, in a particular city, in a particular country, they are all very important. So if a Japanese company comes here, they need to understand the Indian culture. And if they go to Chennai, they need to understand the culture of Chennai. If they go to Bangalore, they need to understand that. They can't be talking the same way as they talk in Delhi or maybe Bombay, right? So there are regional nuances you need to be aware of, and you need to communicate so that no sensitivities are hurt. Show compassion when human casualty or physical damage is involved. You have to appear sorry. You have to appear that you are trying your best to mitigate the problems of the family. You have to make it appear that you are trying to help them in every way in their hour of grief. So again, go back to state the 3 whats, what happened, how it happened, and what are you going to do to help mitigate the future. Caution against speculation on causes of blame. This I said before, this is very, very important in a crisis. The other important thing is draw support from authorities, government, academics, professional, key opinion leaders, independent third parties, especially when it comes to complicated things like, let's say, environment pollution and host of other areas where the public opinion is very important, academic opinion is very important. You need to ensure that they are along with you. You have to go and talk to them. Of course, these kind of crises are more long-term, right? A fire may happen in 1 day and might subside at the end of 3 days. But some of these environment pollution and all can go on for weeks and months. It's very important to get these people to support your thoughts. Social media challenges. Now, this is something where, honestly, social media is on its own trip. There is nil chance of lifting the wheel. There are people who can write under pseudonyms. They can write under different, names and different figures. Now, you never know where the anonymous attack is coming from. And there are, of course, political issues here. A lot of times, things become political also. Then it complicates matters the moment a matter becomes political. What is stays on social media stays forever. So you need to be very careful what you say. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Subramaniam episode, the L&T chairman. Recently he said, I work 90 hours, I want everybody to work 90 hours. It caught the media by storm, social media went to town, and you can't take it back. So, one needs to be very careful what one says in social media. Engagement versus confrontation. Now, this is typical. I remember, I think there was an incident of the Ola CEO talking about to some talking against some influencer. He just tore him to bits. The point here is you can't win a battle. You will have to engage with him. Bloggers, by the way, do not carry pure press releases. The focus is more on experientials, reviews of products, places, etc. So you need to be mindful of what you can do with a blogger or an influencer. Unlike traditional media, bloggers do not follow set protocols or can be managed through an organizational hierarchy. So don't even try any of these things. You need to engage, you need to talk to them, you need to explain to them, you need to make them understand your point of view. How can a crisis affect a corporate? There have been several research done all over the world. I picked this up from one of the big research. Companies judged to have responded inadequately. Their stock value fell 15 to 30% in the following months. Companies which managed an effective response against an average, they rose 5 to 15% over the same period of time of about 2 to 3 months. So that shows very clearly that the stock market does value how you mitigate a crisis. So I come to my last slide. How an organization responds to a crisis actually has far more greater impact on the ultimate damage to its reputation and the bottom line than the crisis itself. Sometimes actually people make the crisis bigger than what it is. Thank you.